When the people of Ireland needed help the most, guess who it was who came to their aid?
Was it the English?
No.
Was it the Americans?
No.
French?
Guess again.
Italians?
Not the Italians.
You're going to have to tell me.
Keep watching. Hello and welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. In this video, we're going to share a truly amazing story.
Seriously, we've been telling this story to anyone who'll listen, and they can't believe it.
This video came about as a result of a comment that we received on one of our previous Did You Know videos. It's from a contact with the name Isa, not Pagan Jesus. It read,
how about Muslims being the only people to help the Irish during the potato famine?
What?
Huh? Muslims and the potato famine?
Straight to Google, and the following unbelievable story unfolded.
The Irish Potato Famine is a slightly derogatory term referring to the Great Famine or the Great Hunger, which was a devastating period of mass starvation, disease and emigration which occurred in Ireland between 1845 and 1849.
It's thought that somewhere in the region of 1 million people died as a result of this famine, and a further million left the Irish shores, many emigrating to North America or Canada.
So why was this famine so severe?
Well, primarily due to the punitive laws and practices. Very few people in Ireland actually owned their own land. Much of the Irish countryside, with its rich green pastures and wonderful farmland, had been turned into English plantations, with the Irish inhabitants forced to rent their section of it.
One of the primary sources of income to pay the rent and provide for themselves was to grow crops. And yes, you guessed it, one of the primary crops was potatoes.
For the Irish potato growing land renters, the potato was both food and money.
They sold a large proportion of their potato crop to cover their rent and to provide for their family's needs, and the rest of the crop was used to feed the family.
For the tenant farmers, there was little, if any, crop diversity. It was pretty much potatoes all the way.
Unfortunately, a plant disease called late potato blight ruins potato crops pretty much every year. However, in 1845, it severely impacted the Irish potato crop.
Whilst only potatoes were adversely affected, the high reliance on this potato crop meant that famine became widespread.
Not only did the people lose their main source of food, they also had nothing to sell, which meant they couldn't buy anything else, and nor could they cover the rent for their land.
News of the crop failure was first reported on September the 9th, 1845. However, no one could have predicted the period of national misery which was going to follow.
Winter was unusually harsh the year after the blight, and if a family had no money to buy food, they certainly had no money to buy clothes, and people began dying as a direct result.
As well as a lack of proper clothes, many had nowhere to live. When they couldn't pay their rent, they were evicted from their homes. To make sure the evicted could not return as squatters, many landlords tore off the thatched roofs and burned them.
Poorhouses were filled beyond capacity. Mansions of the wealthy were flooded with needy, starving, homeless families. Mothers begged for food to feed their babies.
So many people died. Funerals, if they were held at all, had few mourners because people simply weren't strong enough to attend. There wasn't enough wood to make coffins.
Unfortunately, leaving Ireland was also filled with danger. Few wanted to go to England except to board a ship departing for the New World.
So Liverpool, which later became the birthplace of the Beatles, became the starting point for long journeys on overcrowded sailing vessels heading for a new life in America.
Very little was done to help at a time when help was needed the most. Where the British government failed, there were some desperate to help the Irish people. Did you know One of the only countries to come to the aid of Ireland during the Great Hunger was in fact Turkey.
The support offered and provided by the Muslims of Turkey forms such an incredible yet little known story, it's actually currently being made into a movie.
The Islamic Ottoman Sultan, Khalifa Abdul Majid, stated that the Muslims of Turkey would send £10,000
equivalent to so much more today
to aid the suffering of Ireland's farmers. Now, given that it was Muslims offering to help the Irish people at a time when few others were coming forward, this generosity is interesting all by itself. However, it is what happened next that really blows my mind.
During this famine, Queen Victoria was on the English throne. Did you know that when she heard about the generous offer made by these Muslims, she personally intervened? Was it to give more? No.
She requested that the Sultan send just £1,000 rather than the 10,000 he'd promised, because she had only sent 2,000 herself, and she didn't want to be outdone. Now, amazing if it ends here, right? Well, get ready.
The Sultan agreed to the wishes of Queen Victoria and sent just £1,000 to the Irish people. However, at the same time, he also secretly loaded 5 ships full of food and sent them sailing to Ireland.
When the British authorities heard of this, the English courts attempted to block the ships and stop them arriving in Ireland to feed the starving people.
Luckily, the Sultan was not deterred and the ships continued on their voyage, eventually arriving in Drogheda harbour, where their desperately needed cargo was unloaded by the Ottoman sailors.
At a time when Islamophobia and anti-Muslim feeling is high, it is important to remember acts such as these, to celebrate the things which unite us rather than simply emphasising our differences.
It is with understanding and empathy that we can break down barriers and bring unity to community.